one question, how? All of these things make you wonder, how can I get myself back into that vortex faster, easier?
Well, the thing is, you can't from that question frame point of view, because the question, how can I get to a place that I'm not faster, just really causes you to dig in where you are. That's that what is-itis that we were talking about. It's just shouting, here's where I am and I don't want to be, here's where I am and I don't want to be, here's where I am and I don't want to be, here's where I am when I don't want to be, don't want to be, don't want to be, don't want to be, don't want to be. And the vibration is just so rampant that you can't be anywhere other than there. So the answer is you have to do something to let go of what is, which means a distraction from it. A distraction from what is all that is necessary to move to a new place. That's why teachers from all times have found the power of meditation, because when you meditate, you quiet your mind. When you quiet your mind, you stop thought. When you stop thought, your point of attraction stops. In other words, when your negative point of attraction stops for sure when you stop thought. Now, it's not accurate to assume that every thought is a negative thought, because you could be thinking thoughts that are in the vortex. But when you quiet your mind, you stop thought. When you stop thought, you stop resistant thought. When you stop resistant thought, you'll move right into the vortex. It really is that simple. So the question is, do I have the discipline to quiet my mind enough to, it's like the cork is bobbing on the surface of the water. That's the vortex. That's pure positive energy. You can hold it under the water as you focus on an issue, as you beat the drum of a problem, as you worry, as you fret, as you gossip, as you blog. In other words, you can hold yourself under the water. But when you let go, that cork will bob right back up. And that's the thing that we really want you to take away from this gathering. If you weren't doing that thing you do, you'd go into the vortex, because the vortex is really who you are. It's dominant and it's calling you. So if you could stop beating the drum of what's bothering you, just stop doing what you're doing that's holding you there. Think about someone who is so angry that they move right into a fist fight. And if you could stop right before you pulled that first punch, things would be better for you. It would be better before your nose was broken, wouldn't it? It would be better before you went to jail, wouldn't it? It would be better. It would be better. So if you could just stop short of throwing that punch, even though you're justified and even though you want to do it and even though you're right, oh, you're so right. If you could just not do that, it would be better. And in the same way, if you could stop before you throw those words out there, before someone records you and plays you on television. Right. If you could have just stopped short of those words, it would have been better. Wouldn't it have been better? Wouldn't it have been a lot better? Wouldn't it be better if the words weren't out there? And in the same way, there are thoughts that if you can just pull those thoughts back, pull them back. Well, once you're in the place that you've been feeling it and thinking it and speaking it and acting it, then you're not going to all of a sudden stop doing that, because you've got a strong point of attraction going on that's making those thoughts and those people and those conversations, all those cooperative components come to you. But if you quiet your mind, if you get distracted, if you meditate, if you listen to music, if you pet your cat, if you put your feet in the warm water, if you take a walk on the beach, if you take a walk, if you watch a bird in flight, if you run with your dog, there are all kinds of things that you can do, you know it, that distract you from that resistance, and you always feel better when the resistance stops. You just haven't been putting two and two together. You haven't been associating the absence of this negative conversation with the improved way that I feel. But once you start making that association, then you deliberately quiet your mind and you feel a little better, and you deliberately quiet your mind and you feel a little better. You stumble into the vortex and you milk it a little longer, and before you know it, you tip the balance. The balance of your vibration tips significantly enough that it's more likely for you to feel good than bad. It really is that simple. And we think that the personal decision in terms of action that would augment this understanding, make it the easiest to apply, would be to decide that I'm going to do more of the things that feel better when I do them and do fewer of the things that don't feel good when I do them. Now, action isn't the answer, but it might be a starting place. The way it really works is we talk about pull the fists in and pull the words in and pull the thoughts in. It's actually the opposite of what we really teach, because what we're teaching is find a thought that will then inspire the word that will then inspire the action. In other words, because whatever thought you find, cooperative components will amass around it, you see. But there is such a power of stepping into this vortex. You just have no idea the leverage that's in the vortex that isn't outside the vortex. And almost everybody is trying to drive their life and run their life and control their life and live their life outside the vortex using words. I'm very angry. Well, I'm very sorry that you're very angry. And we say blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. The only thing that matters is how you feel. And you have the ability to control the way you feel. And nobody's words are going to make any difference. Nobody's words are going to make any difference. It's your vibrational shifting that makes the difference. So what we're really talking about is, what can I do? How can I find? You said how. How? What can I do? Anything and everything that gives me more airtime in the vortex. And we say, these are the steps. First, accept the reality of this vibrational reality. And we know the reality that's manifest, it's compelling. You can see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it. It's reality. It's real. Others even agree about large parts of it. It's reality. But there is a vibrational reality that is real time. This is where it's at. The vibrational reality in this vortex, this is really present tense. Your sense of time, your sense of now is, we want you to feel the nowness of your energy, the nowness of how you feel, the nowness of the relationship between you and you, the nowness, because everything is about that juncture where you meet you. And if you meet you and you feel ornery, the meeting's not going well. Because you're vibrating over here, all full of resistance, and yet you cannot separate from who you are. You cannot ever break loose of this vortex. And so everything that you're feeling is about your relationship with this ever improving, good feeling vortex that is really you. You feel wonderful. You are on fire with ideas and with worthiness and with love and with knowledge. That's who you are. And when you're hanging around out there beating the drum of something that doesn't allow the fullness of that, you feel the personal deprivation of being who you are, you see. So the first thing in the how is accept the validity of this vortex, of this vibrational reality. Do you know it's Sunday in Australia? How weird is that? What's wrong with them? Jerry and Esther were over in Australia, and they would call the office and they said, well, we're living your tomorrow and it's really good. You're going to like it when you get here. But of course, while that was fun to think about, it wasn't accurate because it was all happening now. Whether it was San Antonio or Sydney, Australia, or whether it is physical or whether it is non-physical, it is all happening right now. So the source within you is pulsing right now, loving, knowing, worthy, knowing, loving, worthy, pulsing right now. And you, whether you know it or not, or whether you like it or not, are having a vibrational relationship with that. And if you're doing anything too far from that, you feel awful. And the closer to that you are, hopeful, the better you feel. So if you hang around in a hopeful stance, the vortex will take you in and make a believer of you. And if you go in often, your belief will turn to knowledge. And then you will just expect good things to come to you at all times. And they will, you see. That's how. So if we were standing in your physical shoes, first we would accept the reality, the validity of this vibrational reality. Next, we would acknowledge that the way I feel is my indication of my proximity to that vortex. And the vortex, you got to understand, this vortex holds the larger part of you and all of its expansion, much of which has taken place because of your sifting here in this life. How about that? This expanded version of you. Everything that you want to be, the version of you and its relationship to money, the version of you and its relationship to relationships, the version of you and its relationship to health, everything that you want is already pre-manifestation in this vibrational reality, pulsing and being and knowing. And it is your singular responsibility to yourself to mesh up with that. And anything that you're doing that's keeping you from doing that, stop it. Anything that you're doing, you can feel when it's happening. You're defending, you're justifying, you're rationalizing, you're making a point. In other words, anything that you're doing that is keeping you from just meshing and blending right in with that, anything that you're doing is counterproductive to your beingness.
So the blending will bring in more joy, and I will feel more fun.
The blending is joy.
The blending is
joy, and the joy will bring manifestations. But this is the thing. Right. You see, this is the tripping point. And once you understand this, then everything will clear up for you. If you need the manifestation in order to feel better, then the what-isness of the absence of the manifestation will keep you from feeling better, which means your vibration doesn't shift, which means you won't go in the vortex, which means you won't be a match to what you want, which means you can't get it. So that's why we want you to all have lobotomies. Oh, wait, that's drastic. But if you could just release more and more of those negative thoughts. But right. So you say, all right, I'm going to take Abraham at their word. I'm going to stop thinking those negative thoughts. And we say, you can't stop thinking about that thing that you were thinking about. Stop thinking about, because you're thinking about it while you're thinking about not thinking about it. In other words, you can't let go of it. You can't let go of it. This is a universe that's based upon inclusion, and what you're giving your attention to is active in your vibration. So what you do is you give your attention to something else. This morning, Esther focused on, it was really interesting. Their suite is right overlooking the bay. And so Esther could hear an airplane. She could hear big airplanes, and she could hear a small airplane. Off in the distance, she could hear cars, and the sound of the cars sort of changed depending upon what vehicle was near the hotel. She could hear people talking in the room next door and someone conversing in the hallway. She could hear the water running where Jerry was taking a shower. She could hear an occasional bird making a sound. All of these sounds. It was interesting to hear the collage of sounds. And she reached for the sound. She assumes it is something in the air conditioning in the hotel that she isolated as the only constant that she could find. Because the birds came and went, the cars came and went, even the shower was coming and going, the conversation was coming and going, but there was a constant that she discovered in the drone of some machine somewhere in the building, and as she focused on it, she realized that it was unchanging. And so she gave her undivided attention to that and went right into the vortex. In other words, it was a visceral feeling. She actually felt her body swept away into this energy of well-being, because in the absence of because Esther could not now hear this. This is the point that we're making. It's not that the bird wouldn't take her into the vortex, or the shower water wouldn't take her into the vortex, or any of those. She could have focused on anything. The point that we're making is, of all those sounds, it required focus in order to isolate one. And in that, not much focus. In other words, it wasn't like learning a computer program. It wasn't like learning another language. But it did keep her from thinking about the hotel room being switched. It did keep her from thinking about something else that she might be worried about. In other words, you just can't focus upon something that you're deliberately focusing upon without all other things that you've been focusing upon stepping into the background. And so when your attention steps into the foreground and it is non-resistant, now you have, maybe without even knowing it, become an in the moment, real time, cooperative component to all this stuff that's in your vortex. So now, ideas that have been there all along that would serve you extremely well, that you didn't have access to before because you were beating the drum of something that was on a whole different vibrational frequency, you now have access to that.